A silent, lonely figure in black, she keeps vigil over a long-forgotten buried treasure. The souls of her people can rest. Her own cannot. The Dare the Dark Headless Nun Experience, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9:30, July the 3rd to September the 29th, leaving from the playground side of French Fork Cove, 1111 King George Highway. Tickets purchased on site, $15 a head. Legends never die, neither will the call to Dare the Dark. A presentation of Character Matters, Miramichi.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Corcoran Entertainment Show. I'm your host, Franky Corcoran, coming at you in a nice air-conditioned room, which is my bedroom / office area / recording studio. If you guys can hear the fan, don't mind that noise. It's pretty damn hot today, which it's kind of funny that we're in that period now in September where it's like, okay, take your coat off. Okay, put it back on. Okay, take it off and put it back on. We're in that phase right now. But it's been an interesting summer in terms of weather. And it's crazy. Here we are now in September. So, by the way, guys, for anyone listening to this who is in school or going back to university or going to high school, whatever you're doing, best of luck. Hope it's a great year. And just stay safe, make right decisions, and I think we're in for a good year this year. I really do. I'm really stoked to get this year going. Well, it's funny whenever you're out of school and you're just working. It's like just a regular week for you. So people talk about, oh, I can't wait to go back to people who work in schools. Oh, I can't wait to go back to work and stuff. For me, I'm just like, yeah, it hasn't really stopped. It just, kept going. But, so best of luck to all of you guys going back to school and all your endeavors, go back to university, all that good stuff. So, anyways, I'm going to stop beating around the bush because today I have a very special guest. Super stoked to have him on here. You guys know him from The Walking Dead. He played Jared, a savior Jared for 2 seasons. Who I can honestly say probably one of the most despicable characters on that show. For those of you guys who are trying to think, like, who was that guy again? He was the savior who, long-haired savior who was antagonizing the kingdom, and Morgan in particular. So thrilled to have him on here. He's also a playwright. We talk a little bit about his endeavors. We talk about the writer's strike, and talks about some of his time on The Walking Dead as well. So thrilled. I was so thrilled to get to talk with him. It's a great chat, so definitely be sure to also show him some support. Joshua Mikel. Mikel spelled Mikel. You'll see it in the description of the episode anyway. But definitely follow him on all social medias, Instagram. Great guy. Was so thrilled to have him on here. Later in the show, guys, I'm going to count down my top 10 favorite comedy films of all time. I was going to do a top 5, but it was so hard, so I decided to put it to a top 10. And then I'll also ask the question about whether or not re-releases are necessary, going off Barbie's recently announced re-release, which it's funny that I didn't think I'd still be talking about Barbie all this time later, but here we are. That's how much of an impact it's had. So anyways, guys, enjoy the show today. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Corcoran Entertainment Show. I'm your host, Franky Corcoran, and today I am joined by somebody who, for those of you big Walking Dead fans out there, somebody who you love to hate for sure. He played Jared, Savior Jared, for 2 seasons on The Walking Dead. Joshua Mikel. Josh, how are you?
I'm doing great, Franky. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I mean, like I was we were talking before I started recording that it's so funny watching you on The Walking Dead. You were just a complete fucking asshole on Walking Dead. Like it was just the worst possible character.
Sure.
Like he was just so despicable and just so evil. And then talking to you now, even talking to you through email, I'm like, this dude is like the nicest dude ever. So just great work on the show, playing
Oh,
such
thanks,
a
man.
horrible person, but you're such a great guy in real life.
I truly appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, it's acting. That's acting.
Exactly. But I mean, like people like with The Walking Dead, they're always so passionate about the show that they sometimes forget that like it's like they almost think it's a documentary and they start saying, "Oh, I hate you," and this and that. It's like,
Yeah.
no. I'm Josh. I'm not Jared. How has the fan reaction been? I mean, it's been a few years since you've been on the show. How has the fan
Yeah.
reaction been?
Well, it's interesting. I guess when I first got off, the folks would like I would go to these conventions, and there was a handful of folks that would be, like they would be slow to approach any sort of table, that I was standing at or whatever. And since then, things have chilled out. I think there's plenty of dirtbags on that show, and they all meet their timely deaths or untimely. For me, I felt like it just took a long time for that guy to die, and he should have died a lot sooner. But yeah, I had a fantastic time, and I give people grace in that. It feels I feel a little vindicated sometimes when people are excited about the work that I've done and feel like I am that person. That feels good.
Well, that I mean shows that you did a great job, though. I mean, like the fact that people are still, oh my God, it's Jared, but it's like, no, that's not Jared, that's Josh. Like that Josh is a nice dude.
Oh
Don't
man, I went to
don't
Home
say
Depot
nothing bad.
yesterday. I was at Home Depot yesterday, and this woman was helping me get some air filters, and then she was like, "You look familiar. Do you like come to this one often?" And I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." And she's like, "But you look like maybe a little more familiar than that." And then she was like, "Are you on TV?" And I'm like, "Yes, I was," and she was like, "Oh my God, you were in The Walking Dead. I hated your character." And then next thing I know, I was taking photos with her and her friend, and it's like that's a really cool thing because the Walking Dead fans are so they're fantastic, and they really they care about that show so much, and all the renditions of the show, all the different series that have spun off. She was talking about not fear, but I mean, I don't have a lot of these streamers, so I don't even know what is what is part of the universe anymore. So she was like talking about some spin-offs, the Daryl show, and then
Yes, that's coming out soon. That's right. Daryl Dixon's coming out
yeah.
soon. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that I simply don't know about. I watch Antique Roadshow, and yeah, that's about it. Repair Shop, Great British Bake Off. I like British people doing nice things most of the time.
That's always Downton Abbey. You're a
Yeah,
Downton Abbey guy.
I did. I was with my ex, but I don't think I don't. Yeah, that's fine. Scripted television, it's kind of like once you see behind the curtain, it's the things when you recognize that the writers are doing the real work and the actors are just mouthing stuff sometimes.
Yes, exactly. And I mean, like, kind of echoing like the whole writers thing, the strike going on. I mean, that's a
Yeah.
huge thing going on right now. So you're not working right now because of the strike, or?
Yeah, I have not. I haven't worked since earlier this year. I did an episode of FBI Most Wanted, um, and then yeah, the strike started rumbling, and I had a couple things in that I had booked that I was ready to shoot and work on, and that stuff just ended up not happening. So that's what happens. I hope we get a better contract, and fortunately, I'm okay. I'm able to pay my rent or my mortgage or whatever, and there's just a lot of people that I think that are trying to make it as actors, and this thing is a lot more difficult for, and I'm very fortunate in that at least. But
Yes. Yeah.
you just hope we get the right contract. I think it's a messy time right now.
Yes, absolutely. Well, it's crazy because at one point it was COVID shut everything down, and then okay, now everything's wide open again. Now it's a writer's strike, and you're like, no matter
Yeah,
what, there's always some sort of obstacles that keep on coming. You know what I mean? Like it's just
yeah,
what
that's
can you
life,
do?
man. That's life.
Just throws lots of curveballs at you. And I mean, well, one thing too, acting is also, I mean, like, luckily you've had lots of great success with your projects and stuff like that. Um, but of course, pursuing acting is always a huge, for some people I know who wanted to pursue acting, they're kind of like, oh, well, I mean, like, it's not very, not reliable because it's like, well, you're going from job to job. It's like, okay, I'm done in this show. Now I need to find a new one. How have you adapted to that? I mean, like, has it been hard? I mean, like, of course, you went from
Well,
Walking
no,
Dead, you know?
no, I don't think I've mentioned this maybe before, and I never expected to make my living as an actor, and so I've worked as a playwright. I painted, houses and stuff. I did volleyball. I coached a volleyball team. I've waited tables, and I and then I was in a band for a long time, and when I was in the band, I had to find some sort of income while I was on the road, and so I started doing graphic design, and yeah, I did graphic design, and then and that sort of bled into doing music videos for my band, and then I started doing music videos for other folks, and I guess, like, I always wanted to make my living as an artist, and whatever that meant, and sometimes that's more difficult, and being a white dude, that's a lot more easy for me, and um, my folks help me out a lot too, and so I see the privilege in it too. But yeah, I've grown. My grandpa had an expression: just don't buy anything you don't have the money for. Um, don't put anything on credit that you can't afford. And so that's kind of that's my MO. And so I've carved out, fortunately, thanks to acting and thanks to it kicking in the way it did. It felt like a pipe dream to me, and it's become something that has sustained me, which in a wonderful way. Um, and now now I'm trying to shift gears and maybe do a little more writing and spend time with family, and um, you know uh, do things that fulfill me, so when the business does come back, that I'll be a more round actor, I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I mean, that's kind of how, I mean, all this time off with COVID and stuff like that was really what started all my playwriting endeavors and stuff like that, starting this
Cool.
podcast and everything. So really, like, if one good thing came out of COVID, it was I wouldn't be talking to you right now. That's one thing too. So take the
Great.
good out of the bad, and I mean, like, playwriting too is such a good way to not just express your creativity, but it's also a great way to make lots of connections. You're reaching out to people, like, some of my instructors and stuff like that, reaching out to them for advice on stuff, and it's a real collaborative effort. So when did you start your playwriting? Because you write, your plays are more so targeted for younger audiences, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
The published ones are, for sure. The ones I have some stuff through Play Scripts, which I guess is, yeah, they merge with somebody, dramatist. I don't know, but yeah, I have some stuff through Play Scripts that's mostly theater for young audiences, or theater for college age groups. But the young audiences stuff is really what's been produced, and it's really that's fantastic. Um, I went to school at Florida State. I was studying theater. I also double majored in creative writing because I wanted to make the most of my time there. And while I was there was this empty chair, this chair in the school theater that had some money available. So they brought in Mark Medoff, who he wrote a Tony Award winning, Oscar winning screenplay, Tony Award winning play called Children of a Lesser God, but he also had written When You Coming Back, Red Rider, a number of really kind of like angry, like really intense plays that really tapped into when he was writing. And so he came in and he taught a playwriting class, and because I was kind of double majoring, it made sense to take playwriting, and I was excited about it, and it was something that really, really you got my rocks off. And then through that, he got us introduced to the Kennedy Center American College Theater Festival, and I got a play produced, or not produced there, but read there, and so it was just truly it was a matter of just having mentors and folks that I could really look up to, who kind of kept believing in me to the point that I wrote a bunch of stuff. And so Mark connected me with this guy, James Larson, at this children's theater, and I wrote a children's play, and I've always wanted to write kind of like Pixar-esque kind of stuff. And so Mark contacted me with this guy, James Larson, who runs this theater called he ran a theater in St. Louis? Nope. Kansas City? No. Yeah. He ran a theater in, oh God, outside of Minneapolis. But anyways, it's a pretty boring story. But long story short, I had a lot of people that believed in me, and then I wrote a play that got published, and then I started writing more plays, thinking like, oh, this is amazing, and those things get done at middle schools. I try and write my plays to cater to a large group of students and not give them too much of a burden of dialogue that they can, there's maybe 4 or 5 lines spread out amongst 30 kids. And then I also try to do an adaptation of my plays that cater to a smaller group of performers, because if it was to be done in a equity house or something, they would hire 5, 6 people at the most. So I try and double cast stuff and make it accessible to both professional theaters and young theaters.
Oh, okay, right on.
Middle school. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that was one of the big problems that I had starting out, was that, I mean, like, doing theater in high school and stuff like that. We'd always do big 30-person casts and stuff like that. And so
Yeah.
when I started writing, I'm like, okay, my first play, I want 15 parts and this and that. And so my instructor's like, well, maybe just keep in mind, if you're going to try and get some of them published, I have nothing published yet. But he said, if you're going to try and get it published, he said, just keep in mind that, well, especially with how things have changed during the pandemic, and something that the great Canadian playwright Norm Foster had said as well, where try your best to stick to smaller casts as much as possible, because that's really, I mean, companies going through like, okay, what kind of play are we gonna do? This one has about 30 people. We only got 10 here. Okay, let's just toss that aside. I mean, it's rough, because it's like you want to include as much as possible, but at the end of the day, like quantity wise, like cast wise, but then also if you're gonna get it published, what is the most feasible for companies that might want to produce your work?
And if you're thinking about, because Mark, my mentor, always said you can make a killing in theater, but you can't make a living. And I think that's the truth of it. Is, a lot of people pursue theater because they love words and they love the craft. And so when you set out to write a piece of theater, the dream is that it would be produced on Broadway, and they would have these budgets that would cater to a 30, to pay people what they deserve. But when you're talking about your regional theater or your community theater, it's really tough. It's really tough for those theaters to cater to what folks need to live and cater to a larger cast like that. And yeah, that's a tough thing. But when I want to write big plays, I write them for middle schools because I know they have a lot of parts that kids want to do, but also like big plays in the sense of cast, but also not a lot of theatrical needs. Not a lot of doesn't require lights or a lot of costumes or anything crazy. And then when I write for adults, I think top 7 people max, because that's a lot of people taking off their normal jobs that they're paying their livings with to come to rehearsal for 6 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever they're doing and put up a show. And I mean, I think that, I think the folks in theater 99 times out of 100 are doing it for their love of the theater, not for money, so yeah, they generally have other jobs.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, if that was like their job, you know what I mean? Then it's like that would be like, okay, 100%, give it your all kind of thing. I mean, like they would still give it their all even if it wasn't their job. But I mean, like it's okay, I'm just here, we'll put all the work in, but don't pay me because I'm just in it because I love the theater. Which I mean, as much as a lot of us would love to pursue something like that as a career, you also have to look at people who have mortgages to pay and bills to pay and stuff like that, which is like everyone's got lots of stuff that they gotta pay and stuff like that. So it's like as much as I'd love to pursue it, you're like, maybe now is not the right time, or like maybe somewhere down the line. Like it's real tricky. I mean, well, especially with the entertainment industry.
Oh, big time. I haven't done theater in, I don't know, over a decade because of that very reason. It's when you work a day on a shoot, the SAG scale is $933, I think, for a day. And that comes and goes, right? So you'll work maybe one day a month for 6 months, and then you won't work for a year or whatever. You never know. But theater, I think the equity rate is like, don't quote me on any of it, but I know it's like $1,200 or $1,300, $1,500. It's no more than $2,000 for a week of work. And that's a lot, if you think against a 9 to 5 or even a waiting job or something, that it's a big sacrifice to take that time out and do that. And then it's a sacrifice monetarily, but not, I think it's a soul fulfilling kind of thing. And I think a lot of people recognize how much it gives to them, exploring characters and staying with those characters for weeks at a time. Whereas like film, you get an audition on Thursday, you maybe, you're booked on Friday, and then you're shooting on Tuesday, So, and
completely different scale.
Yeah, you're not living with those characters. It's not a lot. It's not the same work. And a lot of this is kind of a tangential a little bit, but I know when I got into theater, or got into film rather, I was really taken aback by like, oh, we don't want to talk about these characters. We don't want to like live. We don't want to like do their backstory. It's all work that you have to do. But also when you have one line, it's like, who gives a shit? You just show up and connect the dots, be the pizza guy that delivers the pizza that shows up in the next scene and get the fuck out of there.
No, exactly. I mean, I do love I remember I did a murder mystery back in March, and I remember there were a couple people who had smaller roles, but I love that the amount of detail they went. Well, I think they were this they worked this job here, they have a wife and kids kind of thing. Like they were like full on going like in depth. I think this is what it is, what they do for a living, stuff like that. I absolutely love when people do that. Did you do that? Curious. Because in Walking Dead, we never got to explore much of Jared's background. Did you do much of that with him? I mean, like where you're like, he's such a despicable character. You're like, I need to find some sort of redeeming qualities about him,
No, well, so I did ask that question, but my feeling was that he wasn't great before the zombie apocalypse
Mm.
or the Walker apocalypse, um, and so I think he kind of hit into this kind of trauma wave of only doing for himself, becoming very selfish in that. And so I thought he was kind of sociopathic to begin with, and then once the the outbreak happens, I think it's kind of like I kind of metaphor I've used is that when a ship goes down, you cling to the closest life raft, and the closest life raft for this dude was the saviors, and so um, he would have been shitty on either side. It's just that was the closest door that he can hang on to or whatever. And
they were all kind of like him. It was like, this is literally a group full of me. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's probably what attracted him so much to being a part of the Saviors too.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, it's interesting. I think that thing is interesting. Because I think the show, because it's kind of comic booky, right? It does kind of assume that all these people from different backgrounds end up in are actually all these people who are kind of like-minded end up in these groupings. And maybe that's the case because they can exist and they can survive in those groupings. But like for me, I was always like, well, I think this guy would have sucked anywhere he would have wound up, but I don't know. I don't. Yeah, big. The big answer is that no, I didn't think about it too much because I think he had entered this world of sociopathy that it was every man for himself, and he was doing anything he could to survive, and that meant intimidating by smartassery and violence,
shooting people in the leg and stuff like that. Like he was very. Before we continue, we'd like to give a shout out to one of our sponsors, Newcastle Business District. The Newcastle Business District continues to promote, develop, and enhance our downtown business area through community projects, promotions, and economic development. It was first created in 1983 under the name Newcastle Business Association and was renamed Downtown Miramichi Business Network. This was following Newcastle's incorporation into the new city of Miramichi in 1999. In 2006, it was renamed again to Newcastle Business District. Despite the many changes in its name over the years, the organization's goal has always remained the same, which is to further enhance the active growth of the downtown business community. Newcastle Business District. Shop downtown Newcastle. But one of my favorite scenes, like by far, has to be it was actually in your last episode where Rick and Morgan they give their word, like, don't worry guys, we're gonna let you go if you just free us. And then Rick basically throws it all away and kills all the saviors. Morgan kills you as well, or kills Jared. Sorry, you're still alive. Josh is still here.
Thank goodness.
But I gotta ask, what was it like working? Because I'm such a fan of Andrew Lincoln and Lennie James. What was it like working with those two? Because those two are just like, especially with The Walking Dead, they started that whole universe, and they're terrific actors. I just love to know what it was like, not only doing that scene, but just seeing them. Like the two OG characters who started the whole show. What was it like working with them?
I mean, it's interesting. I tend, when I get on set, I tend to see people as individuals and not what they brought into the universe. But with Andy Lincoln, it was, he has brought, so just by nature of dedicating himself to The Walking Dead and the fact that The Walking Dead shot in Georgia, it brought a lot of attention to Georgia because of the tax incentives and showing the world that good stuff can be filmed here. I really had it was much more personal for me to work with him. I think, and so we finished that scene or whatever. It was so I showed up in the final episode of that season, and I show up as a ghost haunting Morgan or whatever. And I finished. I honestly, so I'd shot my death episode 8:14 or whatever, and then I'm like, I'd say my goodbyes. I'm crying my eyes out, just saying goodbye to everybody, just having an amazing time. Like, it was such a cool episode and such an amazing experience. And Mikey Satrazemis, who directed the episode, just the best dude, and everything about it. I had two friends on set that I'd worked with coming up through Atlanta acting, my buddy Mark Ashworth and my buddy Lane Miller. And, so it was just a beautiful experience, and one of those things, certainly I'll never forget. And then I take a week, I'm kind of like decompressing, and then all of a sudden I get a call from my agent, and she's like, "Hey, Walking Dead wants you back." And I was like, "Holy shit, what? I died." And they were like, "Well, you're gonna come back. I'll let them explain it." And so I came back and I haunted Morgan, and that episode was cool because it was just such a quick little beat. But I had this, face prosthetic in my back, and so I got through that bit, and I went to the makeup trailer, got cleaned up, and then I'm leaving for the last time from Raleigh Studios down there in Sonoya, Georgia, and we were shooting really close. And as I'm leaving the parking lot, Andy Lincoln is walking back, so he wanted to walk back instead of hop in a car or whatever and ride back. And so I got to have my final goodbyes with him and just say thanks, man, for all you did for the show and the industry bringing work for me and all of us actors to Georgia. And it was, that was the best send off I could ever have. And then, Morgan, Lennie James, he's a consummate actor. I've said that about him time and time again. I think he's just an amazing dude and focuses down, and he's, so kind and giving on set. And there was times that there's a moment where I'm over him with the pool cue or whatever. It's this like balsa wood pool cue that we had broken over his back or whatever.
You like sticks, huh?
Yeah, exactly. That
I love that.
And that's ridiculous, that whole part. And then, but he was just like so giving, and it was actually kind of scary a couple times because he was just like, "Come hard at me," like he was like, "I'll grab that, I'll grab it," and so there were times where I was like, thrusting that thing. I was going to catch, I always catch myself, but it's always very scary when you're dealing with sharp objects in people's throats. So yeah, that was awesome. He was just wonderful, and I loved him since I saw him in Snatch in 2001. I guess that's when that movie came out.
Oh,
and
yes,
just
I forgot he was in that. Yes.
Oh my God, yeah.
I completely forgot.
Guy Ritchie film, Brad Pitt, and what's that guy's name? The action star, Jason Statham. But
yeah.
It's just such a good movie, and I talked to him a bit about that. They're both great dudes, just amazing dudes.
And they're really just, like, I hope that we get to see them again at some point, because of course, Fear the Walking Dead, that's where Lennie is on.
Yeah.
And Andy's getting his own show, Rick and Michonne, which I can't wait to see that too. Hopefully we get to see them again at some point, and maybe we get to see Jared again. Is that a possibility?
He's dead as hell. I don't know. I would love it. I would love to go back to that world and explore, but I've kind of let that ship sail. I think if they call, I would absolutely do it. I would love it, but I don't know. I don't think that's in the cards really. So on to the next one, and I've got some cool stuff in the can, and I had some cool stuff in the works before the strike, which is okay. But I think this may be a time to pivot more towards writing, really.
No, absolutely. And you do great with that stuff too. Playwriting's such a big endeavor. I've definitely done it. It's a lot of work, and you've published some plays now too. So that's awesome, man.
Thank you.
And I was such a fan of you too going into this interview. and now I'm an even bigger fan now after just having talked with you about this stuff, man. So do you have any final words? Where can people find you on social media and stuff like that? Or
Yeah, I'm just on Instagram right now. I kind of pulled some of that stuff from my life because it was just getting a little too tough. But I'm on Instagram. If you just search Joshua Michael or Josh Michael, I think you'll find me. And then yeah, I have some. I guess I can't, because of the strike. I can't really promote a lot, but I've got some stuff in the books and in the can or whatever, and stuff that should be rolling out in the next, I don't half a year. There's a handful of things, and hopefully we'll get back to work. And I think that's one of the things I kind of want to express for anybody who's interested is, um, it's this strike has kind of put us in a lot of us actors in a really tough spot, because I think when these producers don't agree to treating treating the talent or the actors, and treating anybody really on set with the care and paying them what they deserve from the cut of what they're making, it sends us kind of into an existential spiral, I think, because it's like, who am I working for? What are we even worrying about? So I don't know. Hopefully we'll find out a better model, or we'll figure something out, and I'll get to keep doing the fun thing that I love to pay the bills. But at the end of the day, like we've talked about, maybe playwriting will be the thing. And I would love to read some of your stuff too.
Yes.
So please shoot it my way. I'd be interested in checking it. I love the theater, and I really do feel a glut from having not been there for a while.
yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, like, have all your contact info. We'll stay in touch. Maybe we'll even do a play together at some point. You come on down to Canada, or I'll come up there, or we'll see what goes on.
Beautiful.
We'll plan something. So Josh, thank you so much for coming out, or hopping on Zoom. I mean, coming out. I make it sound like that you flew all the way down here. But thank you so much for hopping on. Big fan of your work. Congratulations on all your success, and we'll definitely stay in touch, man.
Truly. Thank you, Franky. I appreciate you, man. This has been awesome.
All right, guys.
Thank you for being patient.
Yes, absolutely. Oh my God, absolutely. I mean, like, this is, I would have waited as long as you wanted. I would wait as long as you wanted for this. This was was truly awesome, man. I had a blast. So guys, we will take a short break. We'll be right back. But until then, this is Franky and Josh signing off. Take it easy, man.
Later, brother.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Corcoran Entertainment Show. That was Joshua Mikel that I was chatting with. Awesome guy. It's so funny, like, whenever, as the title of the episode says, horrible character, excellent person, or excellent actor. And that's the truth of it. He's not only an excellent actor, he's a great guy as well. Kind of funny. My brother came in afterwards because he's a fan of Walking Dead as well, and he said hi to him. And he said he was caught off guard because, just walking in there, and I'm not sure what he expected, but he walked in, and Josh, a big smile, hey man, how are you? And he was like, whoa, wow, like, he's a really nice guy. Like, so that's just a testament to what a great actor he is. I've said that before, and I'll say it again. So yeah, thank you again, Joshua, for coming on out. Really appreciate it, man. So our first solo discussion topic today is, I thought this was an interesting one, because I saw some of these done before, except people do like top 50 and top 30. I chose to do, at first I was going to do a top 5, and then I realized just how hard it was, because I had like a list in and of itself in my honorable mentions, like 5 movies on the list, and then I had like a slew of honorable mentions. I'm like, how about I just bump it to a top 10, because things are getting switched all the time with this. So I said it might be better off if I just do a top 10. So I will provide my honorable mentions. There's not as many as there is list items, but or movie choices for the list. So top 10 comedy movies of all time. Well, it's hard, man, because it's like you got so many amazing and hilarious movies out there, and you want to add as many as you can, but sometimes it's hard because it's like there's just so many out there. Like there's so many damn movies, which is a good thing. This is exactly what you want. But these are just my personal favorite comedy films. Now, I know everyone is entitled to their own opinion. You might be like, oh, why'd you put that on there? That one's not any good. This is just what personally I like the best, so everyone's entitled to their own opinion. You can definitely leave your thoughts on what you think. So honorable mentions. First off, it was in my top 10, and then it got bumped off. I was like, I don't know where I could put it on the list, but the first honorable mention is, of course, Trailer Park Boys, the movie, the first Trailer Park Boys movie. Love the movie. I tried to figure out where I was going to put it on the list. I had it there at one point when I was doing the top 10, and I was like, no, I'll put it as an honorable mention. It's definitely hilarious, the first Trailer Park Boys movie. It's really, really funny. Was narrowly beat out. And then the other honorable mentions are 21 Jump Street and 22 Jump Street. Those movies were just so funny. Those were so good. Second one, I might like actually 22 Jump Street a little bit more, which is rare for sequels. Normally, it's like nothing's ever going to beat the first one, but for me, 22 Jump Street, I like a little bit better. But I couldn't fit them both on here, so I just thought I'd include them both as honorable mentions. And they're fantastic. I mean, like, Jonah Hill, Channing Tatum. We'll see if they do a third one. They were talking about doing a 23 Jump Street. I don't know if there's enough there for it, but I mean, we'll see what happens if they end up doing it. So, number 10. So, number 10 funniest comedy, in my opinion, is The 40-Year-Old Virgin. So funny, man. Oh my god. Steve Carell. Well, I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is the one that really like shot off his career. If I'm not mistaken, like before The Office, before that, it's just so damn funny. Like, it's so funny. Where it's also something that people can relate to, as well a lot. Like, people sensitive about virginity and when you're surrounded by guys who are like, yeah, I did this to this girl and that girl, like, so, and just the way they write the dialogue too is so, like, this is how people talk as well. And followed up with just a hilarious script. I was like, yeah, like this one here I had to put on here, like somewhere. Like Steve Carell, Paul Rudd was so good. He wasn't even like a household name at the time, and he was fantastic in this movie. Seth Rogen was hilarious in this movie. Steve Carell, of course, was probably the show stealer. Even Jonah Hill. Jonah Hill actually had a cameo in this as well too, and same with Kevin Hart. But awesome movie, 40-Year-Old Virgin, one of the funniest movies, just cracked the top 10. Number 9, sorry, is I said 2 because number 9 is Ted 2. Yeah, so I remember watching this one in theaters, and I laughed so hard. There's a particular scene near the end involving Giovanni Ribisi's character that I was in stitches. It was just, it's good when there's a sequel, when you're genuinely wondering, like, do I like this better than the first movie or what? Like, you're really, really scratching your head on that. But I think number 9 is a good spot for it. It's a fantastic movie. It's so funny. Not a perfect movie. It had some flaws with it. But if a comedy movie can make you laugh, I think that's the most important thing. And this movie certainly made me laugh my ass off in the theater. So Ted 2, I mean, like, sequel to the first one, obviously. it doesn't have a 2 in the title unless it's a sequel or whatever. Anyways, but yeah, like Seth MacFarlane never misses a beat with his comedic writing and directing and all that. Mark Wahlberg's hilarious in comedies. Amanda Seyfried did great in this movie as well too. I really really enjoyed her in this movie, much more than I thought, because when I found out that they were switching out Mila Kunis for her, I was like, really? But I thought it was great, and there were just so many things to love about Ted 2. So that is my number 9. Number 8 is a classic, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Absolutely love Ferris Bueller's Day Off. It's one of those movies that it's just one of those feel-good movies that, and even some people, we all wish. Don't deny this. I'm pretty sure there was some point in your life when you wished you could be Ferris Bueller. And I think that's just, yeah, that's that's a good thing. That's a really really good thing. I mean, like, just so many things to love about Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I mean, this was also the first movie I saw Matthew Broderick in. I'm a fan of Matthew Broderick. Was unfortunately, I missed seeing him live in New York, Plaza Suite. I was going to go in 2020, and then COVID shut everything down. And then when things got delayed, I wasn't able to go. I was super bummed out. But this is what really kind of kickstarted my me being a fan of Matthew Broderick. And even seeing a lot of his online theater performances. He's just a fantastic. The producers as well too. Oh my God, yes, that's right. I should have mentioned the producers as an honorable mention. Just fantastic. Matthew Broderick did an amazing job. And it's just one of those movies that it's just a feel good movie. And John Hughes, one of his best by far. Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Yeah, I had to throw it on here because it's just. As I said, it's just one of those feel-good movies. It's one of those films where it's like it's kind of hard to explain, but it just, when you watch it, makes you feel good. You know what I mean? So, and that's one of the best parts about not just any comedy, but film in general. Number 7 is, I think, probably one of the most underrated movies I've ever seen, and that's The Other Guys, Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg. I think this movie is excellent. I love this movie so much. And it's sad it didn't get a lot of the hype, or sorry, it didn't get a lot of the buzz or recognition that it really deserves, in my opinion. I mean, people liked it. It was one of those movies where they watched it, they laughed, and then just didn't really care about, if they ever saw a sequel to it or everything. I was actually dying for a sequel to The Other Guys. I don't think it's ever going to happen. I think just the timing is off now, but it could still happen. Who knows? But it was also the first time we ever saw Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg together, and they're so funny together as well. Of course, Daddy's Home. They were in Daddy's Home as well, 1 and 2, and this was just a great kickstart to their comedic duo, essentially. So yeah, so these guys just absolutely nailed it. Rob Riggle is so funny in this as well too. Like those like cop comedy movies, like those are always super funny and hilarious. This one I think is probably the most underrated one on this list. The rest of them on here I think get the praise that they deserve, but The Other Guys I think is criminally underrated. Definitely check it out. I believe it's still on Netflix if I'm not mistaken. If it is, definitely tune in because it is hilarious. So yeah, number 7 is The Other Guys. Number 6 is Anchorman 2, The Legend Continues. Now, this one was so funny. It's very rare when a sequel can entirely capture the feeling of the first one. And it's so hard, well, especially with comedy, because after a certain point, you worry that their shtick is going to get too old if they keep, like forcing, like trying to relive the old, like the glory days, essentially. But I didn't feel that with Anchorman 2. Anchorman 2 just, it literally felt like, Anchorman 1 came out, 2004, 2005. And it came out, Anchorman 2 came out 10 years later. It was just like, yeah, it's like they filmed this immediately after Anchorman 1 and just waited 10 years to release it. That's what it felt like. Obviously, they look a little older, but still, the fact that you're able to capture a sequel and the magic of it so perfectly, I think that's very rare in a lot of comedies and other movies in general, too. And it's one of the best parts about it, too. I mean, spoiler alert, there's none of the Hangover sequels on here. But the problem with the Hangover series or trilogy is that the second one was just basically, okay, the first Hangover was so successful that, like, let's just go to Thailand and do the exact same movie. And that was the problem with Hangover 2. Hangover 3 was at least a little different, a big step down from the first one, but it was at least still different. But that was the problem with the second one. With Anchorman, they didn't do that. Anchorman 2 was set in New York. It was a completely different story. And it worked. And it's very rare, as I said, for a sequel like that to have as much pull as the first one. So, number 6, Anchorman 2. Sorry, I was talking about The Hangover for a bit. This is about Anchorman. But it's necessary to talk about, I guess, when you're talking about sequels. Number 5 is going to be Trailer Park Boys 3, Don't Legalize It. Now, I mentioned in my honorable mentions, I put Trailer Park Boys, the first movie, on there. At one point, I think I did like it better than Don't Legalize It. But after watching it again, I've watched it many times. It's one of those just, it's hard to say. It's just what you want Trailer Park Boys to be. I mean, like, I know, especially with this one, they kind of go on the road with this one, like out of the park. And it was just a lot of fun. I remember watching it in theaters. It was just so funny. It's just everything you love about Trailer Park Boys. I mean, like, it's funny, it's crude, it's I kind of like the story better than the other two movies. I mean, the first one was awesome, the second one was good, but a step down, and the third one I think was probably the best of it, in my opinion. So, Trailer Park Boys 3, Don't Legalize It. I mean, also, I still remember when I saw it in theaters, and it had that good feeling watching a movie like that with an audience and your friends. It just hits on so many levels. So, Trailer Park Boys 3, Don't Legalize It, number 5. Number 4 is one that I just rewatched recently, and it just had its 16th anniversary. That is Superbad. Oh, my God. Now, just talk about feel-good movies. Yeah, this movie is just awesome. It's so funny. Bill Hader, I thought, was probably Bill Hader and Seth Rogen. Their dynamic was probably my favorite part of it. But Michael Cera and I almost said Seth Rogen. I just said Seth Rogen. Michael Cera and Jonah Hill were absolutely fantastic in this. But then, of course, the best, or one of the best parts, was McLovin, Christopher Mintz-Plasse. Just such a hilarious character. I think one of the most iconic characters in comedies, maybe in film. Maybe it's just so hilarious. Yeah, like, it was just well deserved the praise. It's considered one of the best comedies of all time. I certainly agree with that. So I got it number 4. So friggin' funny, man. I love Superbad. Love Superbad. It's on Netflix if you guys haven't checked it out. So that's number 4. Number 3 is going to be Ted. Now I had Ted 2 at number 9. Ted is the first one is number 3. This one was just like everything you wanted. Now, Family Guy never made a feature film. I guess they were going to, just didn't happen. But man, was it ever funny. Was this movie ever just friggin' hilarious. Yeah, it was just like, it was everything I would have wanted from Seth MacFarlane. Really. I mean, like, it's the second one didn't have as much pull. This one here actually had moments where you're laughing your ass off, and then it had moments where you're genuinely like, oh God, like, that actually got me. That is what Ted does so well. It's got the perfect blend of humor and drama, but the humor is just absolutely hilarious. It is just so damn funny. So many good moments like this, like the job interview scene, the hooker shit on the floor scene. And yeah, Seth MacFarlane, I mean, oh my God, he did so good in this. And Mila Kunis and Mark Wahlberg, Giovanni Ribisi, amazing cast. Definitely had to throw this in the top 3. So that's Ted. Number 2, we're in the final 2. Number 2 is The Hangover 1. Now, definitely there was, I mean, if they never made the 2 sequels, I mean, I didn't like the second one at all because it was just a rehash of the first one. It was just basically, okay, yeah, the first one was so successful. Now let's just go to Thailand and do like literally the exact same movie, not verbatim, but it was it was very predictable. Like that was like Home Alone. Like my complaint was with Home Alone was, yeah, it was somewhat different in terms of tone and setting and stuff like that, but it was still like almost like verbatim exactly the first one, structure wise. But The Hangover 3 was actually really, really good. I did really enjoy The Hangover 3, not as good as the first one, because the first one's just a timeless classic. Like the first one is one of those movies where you will just, I'm going to remember it for the rest of my life, really. And it's one of those just funny movies where I think it's something that a lot of us can relate to with, when it comes to partying with your friends and waking up the next morning. Not that I've ever been roofie when partying with friends before, but where you wake up the next morning, you're like, holy shit, what happened? Obviously, they take it and they blow it completely out of proportion where there's a goddamn tiger in the bathroom. That's Mike Tyson's tiger. Like, what? Like, it's just so... and all three of those actors, like the main actors in it, Ed Helms, Bradley Cooper, Zach Galifianakis, so damn funny, amazing chemistry. Hangover 1 is my number 2 favorite comedy of all time. Yeah, definitely. It's just so damn good. Does Caesar live here? I didn't think so. I love that one. So number 1, many of you might be wondering what it is. I've listed off so many amazing comedies. What is my number 1? Anchorman 1. Anchorman, The Legend of Ron Burgundy. Anchorman is my go-to if I'm feeling down. Even after they took it off Netflix, if I was feeling down, I would just go watch clips of it on YouTube, and it would make me feel so much better. Yeah, I loved Anchorman. I love Anchorman. It's my favorite comedy of all time. Best Will Ferrell movie, best Will Ferrell character, Ron Burgundy, is just like one of those. God, he even had his own podcast at one point. He wrote his own novel. He wrote his own, like it's just fantastic. Will Ferrell's so good at that. Like, it's probably, and it's one of those parts where you actually seriously forget that it's Will Ferrell, and that I think is rare. Where, like, some actors, you'll see them, oh, that's very clearly, like, I don't know, like, not that Paul Rudd's bad, but I'm saying, like, if you see Paul Rudd in, like, a movie like this, you're just kind of like, oh, it's kind of like, it's basically, that's Paul Rudd, except he's got a mustache kind of thing. But with Ron Burgundy, it was like Will Ferrell completely transformed. It was like there were times where I forgot that he was even Ron Burgundy, there were times where I forgot Ron Burgundy was Will Ferrell, and that's rare, man. It really is. Just it's so hard because I don't want to give away parts for people who haven't seen it, because I highly encourage you watch Anchorman. It's my number 1 favorite comedy of all time, and there's not really much more I can say except you got to watch it. And I hope they do an Anchorman 3. I really do. I think they have another one in them. Some people say it got kind of tiring after Anchorman 2. I disagree. I think they could get one more out of it. Whether they will or not, I don't know. But I'd love to see another Anchorman movie. It's been a while since Anchorman 2 has come out, so I think the time is right for it. But anyways, those are my top 10 comedy films. Number 10 is The 40-Year-Old Virgin. Number 9 is Ted 2. 8, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. 7, The Other Guys. 6, Anchorman 2. 5, Trailer Park Boys 3. 4, Superbad. 3, Ted. 2, The Hangover. And 1, Anchorman, The Legend of Ron Burgundy. You guys definitely be sure to let me know your thoughts on social media. What are your top 10 favorite comedies of all time? Really curious to see where everyone stands on that, because comedy's subjective, movies are subjective, art is subjective. Let's see where everyone stands on that. And so our last discussion topic today is going to be with regards to, now it's kind of a subjective, speaking of things being subjective, I'm seeing things mixed opinions on this, on what's going on here with, now of course, Barbie, it's easy to say that it's probably the biggest hit of the summer. I mean, it crossed $1 billion, way more money than I think any of us thought it would get. But here we are. It's a financial hit. It's a critic success. It's a fan success. It's the trifecta. So what is the best thing to do? The most logical thing to do? Do a re-release. Apparently, they're going to re-release the movie with additional footage. Now, I think it's only select theaters, if I'm not mistaken. I know I'm hearing a lot of conflicting reports about whether it's going to be select theaters, if it's a re-release worldwide. Some of these re-releases, I know, like Avatar. I remember back when that re-released and it crossed Avengers Endgame. That didn't play in my town. That didn't play in Canada at all, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know, but the thing, so there's a couple of mixed opinions on this whole situation of why are they re-releasing? What's the point of even doing it? Are they necessary? And where I stand on that is it really depends on the exact reason of re-releasing. Now, here's the thing. So, let's say, because I remember Avengers Endgame, I think what they did at one point was they re-released it and they added, I think, like a deleted scene, like one deleted scene. So it's basically, hey, come back to the theater and watch this movie and, sit there for 2.5 hours, or in Avengers Endgame's case, it was 3 hours long, and just watch for one additional scene. Now, if people are going into this expecting, like, okay, like additional footage, what is it? Is this like, is it a blooper reel? Is it like a bunch of extended scenes like scattered throughout? What is it? That's when I get where I start to wonder if it's necessary, and I say it really all depends on, like, why are they re-releasing it? If they're re-releasing it just to throw in just like one like minute-long deleted scene and they're advertising it as it's additional footage, then to me it's like it's not really necessary. Now, from a business point of view, it's smart because, I mean, it's making lots of money still. Now, yeah, it's kind of funny because, so whether I say it's necessary or not, like, the studio is gonna take what I say into consideration, but but it's like, whatever makes money, it's a business, re-release it. If it's going to make money, if people are going to go out and see it, then they'll go out and see it. But are they necessary? No, they're not necessary at all. The only thing, as I said, that I don't really like about it is how they say, oh, it's additional footage, come out and see, this and that. It's like, okay, but what is the additional footage? Is it a bloopers? Is it a deleted scene, like 1 minute long deleted scene? Like, what is it? That's where the question really comes in about whether it's necessary, or why are they even bothering with it. So there's many different ways to look at it, but at the end of the day, people, it is a business. It's a business. They got to do what's best for them, and they know. Well, it's funny because people will say, like, it's so unnecessary. It's so unnecessary. Like, watch this, watch that. They're gonna still watch it anyway. You know what I mean? Like, it's they're banking on people like diehard fans. Like, okay, they like Barbie. Okay, we're gonna re-release it with additional footage. People can say all they want about, oh, that's stupid, like, so unnecessary, but a lot of those people are gonna go watch it anyway. You know what I mean? Like, like, not saying that I would, but who knows? Maybe it. I mean, like, not that it's even coming to my theater anyway, but if it did, like, yeah, no, like, I'm saying this right now, and the next thing you know, I'm buying a ticket to go there. You know what I mean? But they be banking on people like that. They are absolutely banking on people like that to already saw this movie. Okay, here it is. Like, 1 minute deleted scene. Check it out. But from a business point of view, it would be kind of ridiculous not to. So that's just one thing that people seem to forget at the end of the day, that like, it's not all about oh, it's so unnecessary. Maybe it isn't necessary. No movie is necessary, but to keep the industry alive, to keep us entertained, people keep making movies, so and whatever will get people to the theater to watch it, whether it's, but then again, I wish they would also specify too, if they're going to say, yeah, we're re-releasing it with additional footage. Well, are they bloopers? Are they deleted scenes? Are they something that people are just gonna, you're just gonna release online to the public anyway? But of course, there's nothing better than sitting down watching it in a movie theater. So I do get that, where people come from on that end. So whether it's necessary or not, it's not necessary, not in the least. But from a business point of view, you would have to be out of your mind to not even consider that if you wanna bank on, like, okay, like, we can make some serious money off this. re-releasing it is the best option for that, so that's where I stand on that. But anyways, guys, not much more to say on that, and because I did go on for a bit about the top 10 comedy movies, so we'll probably call it there. Let me know what you guys think about that. I kind of wanted to touch on it and just say to the people who think it's so unnecessary. Yes, you're right, it's unnecessary, but they just got to do what they got to do. Although I do wish that they would specify what exactly the additional content is. But it also could be their way of saying, come find out. You can come and find out. Come pay for an extra ticket and come watch the movie again. But anyway, we'll call it there for the show today, guys. I want to thank my guest Joshua Mikel. Joshua, you can check him out on Walking Dead. For those of you guys who aren't caught up on it, definitely check him out. Season 7 and 8 he's in. He plays a fantastic villain. One of the most despicable characters, and just show him lots of support. Definitely keep in mind, as we mentioned, it's not a documentary. Don't harass him because of what his character does. So be nice to people. So thank you again, Josh, for coming out. I really appreciate it. And thank you all for tuning in today, and we'll see you guys next week. Until then, this is Franky signing off. Take it easy, guys.